Hello everyone and welcome to game 4 in a series between Hasu and Dimaga. Hasu spawning as the red Protoss player here at the 9 o'clock position. Meanwhile, Dimaga spawning as the blue Zerg here at the 3 o'clock position. Metalopolis, an oldie but a goodie of a map. I know a lot of people were very sad to see this map be removed from the map pool, but still it lives on in tournament play here now. Dimaga spawning as the blue Zerg here, and we'll see what's going to really happen. Dimaga winning game 3 and now being able to play on Metalopolis as well. So Metalopolis, a map that normally favors Zerg, especially if you do have these cross positions. It is very easy for a Zerg player to establish that his all-important third base here up on that high ground location. It's rather easy to defend as long as you have a couple spine crawlers here or some way to make sure that you don't get flooded by harassment units here, you're fine. But then again, Protoss doesn't really have that many ways to harass their opponent. Probe going to come up the ramp, quickly spot that there is no creep, and then move along his merry way over into this position. We'll see what Dimaga is going to be going for. Dimaga knows where his opponent has spawned as well, and he could either go for that 15 hatchery or he could try to go for that spawning pool, and it looks like it will be a spawning pool once again. So Dimaga opening up with an early pool as opposed to trying to do a 15 hatch. Now, Gateway is being warped in here. It looks like Hasu has his assimilator down, and he will be most likely going for a pylon, a second pylon before a cybernetics core, as the overlords are now starting to get in position, and we now see an extractor coming in from Dimaga. So this was not the same build that we saw on Shakura's Plateau, and now opting to go for movement speed a little bit earlier than the previous game, and I'm rather curious by this move from Dimaga. The movement speed is very important, but on Shakura's Plateau, I would say movement speed is even more important as you're trying to gain map control in a very large center. Metalopolis doesn't have that very large center. It has two main walkways in between the bases, as we now see a probe simply come in, take a look at the extractor, and now try to figure out what exactly his opponent is going for. A queen is being trained, Zerglings are being added, and this probe shouldn't be able to stick around for very much longer, as it is being forced to pull back. A hatchery will be placed down here at about the well before the 4-minute mark, as Hasu now starting to train up more probes here. He is going into that double gas, and he is getting into that cybernetics core. Now he's not yet chrono boosting it, so he should be chrono boosting either his warp gate tech, no, chrono boosting out a stalker instead, and really not sure why he needs to chrono boost out the stalker. I believe chrono boosting out the probe may have been a little bit better of a choice there, as he could get a little bit more of an economic game going. Overlords are positioning themselves to make sure that if there are any flyby, any Stargate units, that he will be able to catch it, as now we see a Zergling running back home, and now the Zerglings are sitting at the all-important Zelnaga towers in order to make sure if there are any units that he is able to rally them up and train up a lot of Zerg units in just a split second. Drones now being added as well. Dimaga getting his second queen already. He may be going for 3 queens once again. That seems to be his style. 3 queens, very strong in being able to fend off harassment, and also giving you a very strong production bonus. And one of the strongest and weakest links in the Zerg mechanic. And the queen often gets focused down, 175 hit point building essentially, as it does slow down your production a lot if you lose a queen. Now, the second queen finally being added here. Drones are being transferred down, and we'll see whether the creep highway will make a big difference this time around for Dimaga. Dimaga is now perhaps going to start laying down some of those creep tumors, as I mentioned. There you go. there's a creep tumor, and now the Zerg queen just pretty much sitting off in the very front position. Hasu playing a little bit of Sim City here, making sure that Zerglings are forced to run all the way around to get inside. One of the benefits of Protoss, as I've mentioned in the past, is the ability to just warp in units anywhere. And that also makes for some pretty interesting sim cities, where you don't have to worry about, unlike a Terran player, you don't have to worry about where your units are rallied. They don't have to walk through this giant maze. You can just simply warp them in on the far side as well, and that definitely does help out in the long run. Warp gate tech has been completed. You can see more and more units will be warping in as a Nexus has finally been completed as well, and probes are transferring down to the low ground. Still, no real action coming in from either of these players. I'd be surprised if they did do any early engagements. Both players really seem to favor a macro style of play, no early harassment, and yeah, just no early harassment. And I would normally say that this favors Zerg, as Zerg is able to just get up and saturate their economy much more quickly. But hats off to Hasu, as Hasu is not too... Actually, I spoke too soon. I was going to say that he's not too far behind in terms of his probe count, but then just right then, you saw that Dimaga did train up a lot of drones, now getting into a 6 drone advantage. We are going to see one hallucinated Phoenix now doing the scouting. No hatchery down over here. Very important to spot, as this one particular drone should be growing up to build a hatchery in just a moment. Creep tumors are being laid down as well, as we are now almost done teching the tier 2, and there is that hatchery at about the 8 minute 30-second mark, a normal time for Metalopolis. Double evolution chambers, no research has started just quite yet. And this is always one of the issues for Zerg players. Zerg players really want to build those double evolution chambers, try to get stronger upgrades going as early as possible. But every Zerg building is also a Zerg drone that you have to sacrifice. And because of that, because of the Zerg drone sacrifice, if you build an evolution chamber and you don't start researching the moment it's done, it's almost like you should have delayed it in order to get a little bit more of an economic advantage. A double expansion now coming in from Dimaga, you can see at the high ground location at the 5 or 4 o'clock position, and then also another one at the expansion location, or at the starting or natural expansion of the 6 o'clock location. Sentries, Stalkers now starting to make a move out. The Sentry Stalker army is slightly larger, and the food advantage or the harvester advantage is pretty even once again. So it is now back up to 48 to 51. Chrono Boost definitely helping out Hasu, enabling him to get more and more probes into the field and into the mineral line as we now move into a robotics bay. Protoss ground weapons upgrade about to be completed. We may even see the armor upgrades as well, as I do not see a Twilight Council, and I'm sure he would normally want level 2 weapons upgrade, but still unable to do that just quite yet, as Hasu now starting that research on that armor upgrade as I mentioned earlier. You can see that there is a hatchery down over here as well. This hatchery will be completed in just a moment. The observer is keeping track of the roaches, but I don't believe he knows about this hatchery. This hatchery he may have guessed just because he saw the drone hanging around, but he does not know that his opponent Dimaga has this all-important 4th hatchery, and he will soon be up 2 bases. The key problem, there we go, now that Hasu does fly by, he does see this hatchery, and now the question is going to be, is Dimaga going to accidentally over-drone? He is droning up 13 drones right now, and if we see Hasu respond with an attack, he should be able to easily deal, as his opponent is not going to be able to train up that many units for quite some time. Taking a look at Dimaga right now, Dimaga, all of his hatcheries only have a total of 7 larvae. Spoke too soon, as spawn larvae is going off like a madman, and now getting up to 15. So Dimaga should be able to train up a very large army in just a moment, but his harvester count up to 84, which is just crazy at this 12-minute mark. If Dimaga is able to freely mine for the next minute or two, his army may simply be too large to handle, as he's getting about 3,000 resources a minute. Hydralisks are now being added, Corruptors being added, Groove Spines, level 2 missile upgrades, and this is going to be a massive battle, as the Colossus, Sentries, and Stalkers are now trying for a push. Not quite sure why this push isn't continuing. He does have enough sentries for those force fields. Spine crawlers are now being added. You can see 82 drones now, as the Stalkers and the Colossus really need to be careful. Extended thermal lance range not yet completed. He's not chrono boosting that out. Not quite sure why. He really needs that in order to time this attack a little bit better, but there's still only 1 Colossus on the field right now. Finally getting up a 2nd one, and perhaps he should try to be training up a 3rd one too. Spine crawlers are in position to really fend off this attack here. The Colossus about to get extended thermal lance range, but Roaches are now going after almost a free Colossus. The Roach is now backing off with that Glio reconstitution, moving ever so quickly. And I like this play by Dimaga. He is buying himself time to build a rather large army. His drone count is up to 80 right now, and more Roaches are just going to simply be able to walk into this place and then perhaps take down some of these probes. So 1 probe down, 2 probes down, 3 probes down, and still the Roaches have dealt a little bit of economic damage. Not a lot, but just enough, and it bought a lot of time to force Hasu to really deal with it. We are now sitting at 167 over 200. You can see how much money Dimaga has in the bank. He should be able to, perhaps after another round of spawn larva, yes, you can see a 30 larva sitting in the bank, and now more spine crawlers still being added as well. This is going to be very, very difficult for the stalkers and the Colossi to really push through unless they want to get stopped or take a little bit of damage as well. So we are now sitting on 3 Colossi. The Colossi are now pushing their way in. This hatchery most likely will get sniped down. The Observer, it does spot these creep tumors, going to take them down and also destroy this hatchery, perhaps even utilize this high ground as the Roaches are now trying to push in as well. This is not going to be a good place for Dimaga to engage though, as the force fields are now coming in. Some Roaches did take a lot of damage, and now in come the Corruptors. There are going to be some spine crawlers as well, as the spine crawlers now join in on this fight. The Roaches are trying to flank the high ground, but there is an Observer, and those Colossus can see up to onto the high ground by themselves. And now this is looking to be a very macro-intensive game, as both players is starting to expand even further. Only the gold mineral patch is not yet quite ready. The Colossus now running straight across the map. Blink about to be completed, and if the Stalkers are able to blink up onto the high ground, that is going to be an absolute nightmare, as the Colossus, yeah, sentries and Stalkers are just going to be able to blink inside here and run rampant inside the base. So many Stalkers sitting in here, perhaps going to be able to snipe down the Hydralisk Den as well. It looks like the Hydralisk Den will get taken down, and the Zerglings and Broodlings are just trying to engage. This is looking to be very horrible, as Hasu will be able to do some smart blinking out of there. No, leaving 4 Stalkers up on the high ground. As the battle continues, the Corruptors are now going after the Colossus. Stalkers on the low ground, but the Stalkers really outranging their opponent still. Now, we'll see what's going to happen here. Dimaga is getting a lot of spine crawlers to perhaps fend off any incoming attack. All of these units are being forced to run along the backside of all of these spine crawlers here, so this is a rather difficult battle, as the Stalkers have just been able to blink up and down the high ground. No force field on the ramp, though. That would have been the perfect play, as the Colossi are able to get some free damage onto some of those units. The Colossus, however, pushing in a little bit too far. It looks like one Colossus down to 1 hit point. It does get taken down, as the sentries are still continuing this push even further, as Stalkers are continuing to blink, able to take down multiple Corruptors. And the level 3 weapons upgrade for Hasu is about to complete, but we are now going into Broodlords. Broodlords against Blink Stalkers. This is going to become a very micro-intensive battle. Who is going to be able to surprise the other opponent first? As the Stalkers are simply just walking down the ramp, a new proxy pylon has been established. It will be able to get in more units there, as the Stalkers look to push in onto this high ground here and perhaps snipe down some of these spine crawlers. My daughter giving me a hello, as the Stalkers are now pushing in back over here. Roaches are going to be engaging as long distance spine crawler. And yeah, and now that hatchery has been sniped down. Roaches continuing this chase. The Stalkers need a blink away, able to do so. And now a lot of Roaches once again getting destroyed. Corruptors trying to go after the Colossi, but the Colossi are unable to, or the Corruptors are unable to, as now in comes the Broodlords. Broodlords are going to be able to get in some easy damage, but the Stalkers do have blink, get underneath, and now in comes some fungal growth, but I believe the Broodlords are just overexposed right now. Another fungal growth needs to happen. One expensive Broodlord is all that is left of this giant army, and the Roaches are continuing to push in, but I believe Hasu will be able to take this in just a moment, as the Roaches are just being kited, and a fungal growth doesn't hit that many units. There's another blink. Down goes another Broodlord, and that was a very nice battle by Hasu, able to take down all of those units there. No hatchery over here, unfortunately for Dimaga, as he is now behind on bases, and you never want to be that way. Stalkers continuing the push, spine crawlers and queens now just simply falling. And I think as Hasu snipes down the Greater Spire, no additional Corruptors will be able to be trained, and that may be it, as there are 9 Corruptors, and that is it coming in. Stalkers continuing the push. More reinforcements coming in through the midfield. It looks as though, yes, Corruptors and Colossi trying to join the rest of this ball. Roaches being misrallied and running straight into a group here. And this massive mechanical ball coming in from Hasu, simply too much. Going to lose the Hive Tech. He really needs to start rebuilding everything as quickly as possible, as we are now going into High Templars as well. So High Templars, Archons could be used. Stalkers now continuing to blink, and a massive number of Overlords will get destroyed. Dimaga now going to be upside down on food. Roaches going in for one last battle. Corruptors going after for the Colossus. Stalkers, oh, a fungal growth hitting all of those Stalkers there, so those will get destroyed. But I believe Hasu still has too much of an army here. Dimaga trying to chase after those Colossus, all those Colossi, but not going to really be able to do anything as the Stalkers get in some free kills. There are some Archons now being added as well. That splash damage doing so much. As the Archons doing 43 damage per attack. They are not hallucinations, even though they have a little slight tint to them. And still, waiting for Dimaga. I don't know what Dimaga can really do in this engagement. His army, Hasu's army, is so much larger, and there you go. There's the GG. Hasu being everywhere at once. The high mobility of Blink Stalkers, plus the advantage of Colossus being able to walk up and down these cliffs, really forcing Dimaga to constantly play out of position. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed this game. And the final game in this series will be posted up on Machinima Realm on Monday. I will also feature the video, and I'll try to create a link as well in the description so you guys can follow the entire series. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.